This is Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Tonight on the program, some welcome news for motorists and consumers. Fuel price cuts will take effect tomorrow, while Meralco electricity bills will get smaller this month. President Bongbong Marcos picks a former chief to take the helm of the Energy Department again, but no health secretary still amid the rising COVID-19 cases. And Maroon 5 fans will be loved. Ready your wallets, as tickets for the American pop rock band's concert in Manila will go on sale next month. We begin with fuel companies imposing a big-time price cut tomorrow. Motorists gassing up will see a further drop in diesel prices by 6 pesos and 10 centavos per liter, following a price rollback last week. Gasoline will also go cheaper by 5 pesos and 70 centavos per liter. For many households using kerosene for cooking and lighting, expect a much bigger price cut at 6 pesos and 30 centavos a liter. This is the second consecutive week firms will implement big-time price cuts for diesel and kerosene, while it will be the first for gasoline since June 28th. Well, with a hefty fuel price cut and more motorists on the road, Metro Manila again grapples with heavy traffic and the lack of public transportation. An advocacy group says commuters might suffer more by November when all students return for face-to-face classes. Our George Cahilas has that story.
Long lines of passengers in different terminals and stations showed the lack of available public transportation in some parts of Metro Manila. Transport advocacy group The Passenger Forum now asks, what more when students return to face-to-face classes?
Kung hindi natin susolusyonan yung transport crisis bago buksan ng tuluyan yung face-to-face classes, malilipat lang yung stress in front of their gadgets, no? Doon sa kalye, doon sa bangketa. So, outside of their comfort zone even. Diba? Nasa bahay sila, na-stress sila. Ano pa yung na-stress sila na hindi nila alam kung makaka-uwi sila?
The government says face-to-face classes will partially resume this September and eyes to implement it in full by November. With this in mind, the group challenges Transportation Secretary Jaime Bautista to take a bus or jeepney during rush hour so that he'll experience the daily hardships of commuters. And from there, they are hoping that the new administration will act as fast as possible.
Hindi naman tayo tutol sa jeepney monetization, pero dahil dyan, prematurely pinatigil yung mga traditional jeepneys. Diba? At marami sa mga traditional jeepneys hindi pa rin nakakabalik sa roads. No? Ako sa EDSA Carlosel, kitang-kita natin, sobrang dami nung pumipila dyan. Kulang yung bus.
nakita ko yung hirap ng mga pasahero, no, by just looking at the lines, no. But alam mo, ako ay willing na sumakay dyan sa mga bus na yan, no.
Bautista says he already instructed the creation of a committee that will oversee all the efforts of different government agencies in relation to transportation-related concerns and the full implementation of face-to-face classes. He says the problem is not just the lack of available public transportation, but also the traffic situation in Metro Manila.
We will have to work closely with MMDA, with PNP, with AFP, no, with Coast Guard, no, para yun hong traffic ay also matulungan natin na mabawasan, no.
And with a soaring number of COVID-19 cases, the Transportation Department pledges to adhere with the required health protocols as mandated by the Interagency Task Force on COVID-19. George Cahiles, CNN Philippines.
In the same briefing, Transportation Secretary Bautista said he's scheduling a meeting with the bus consortium operating the EDSA carousel and other government agencies. Bautista also directed the immediate release of 1,000 peso fuel subsidies for over 617,800 qualified tricycle driver beneficiaries. Another relief for consumers, Meralco announcing that power rates will be lower this July thanks to a government-mandated refund for the next 12 months. Electricity bills will be 141 pesos lower for household consuming 200 kilowatt hours a month, as Meralco's residential rate is down to 9 pesos and 75 centavos. That's a reduction of almost 71 centavos per kilowatt hour.
The 87 centavos kasi yun eh. So yun yung reduction mo. Tumaas ang generation cost pero effectively na wipe out. Kaya suma total, meron tayong reduction ngayon.
The Energy Regulatory Commission last week ordered the power distributor to return around 21.8 billion pesos to consumers, representing overcollections from July 2015 to June 2022. This is already the fourth round of Meralco refunds. The 87 centavo rebate offset a 22 centavo increase in generation charges and was more than enough to erase increases during the first 6 months of the year. The cost of power went up in July as fuel prices surged and as the peso weakened further against the dollar.
As we've seen in the last quarter, medyo tumaas yung world crude oil prices. So we might see an increase in Malampaya price to be reflected in the August generation charge. So any weakening of the peso will have an upward pressure on their tariffs to Meralco.
Meralco says it is yet to see if the continuing refunds will be enough to keep electricity rates low for the months ahead. Meralco recently won a 2013 case before the Supreme Court, allowing it to recover over 22 billion pesos in uncollected power charges, but assures the public it's unlikely to push power costs up soon. Meanwhile, Filipino families may see less of a breakfast favorite as small bakers struggle to produce quality pandesal. A page of air tells us a group of community bakeries appeals for help amid economic challenges.
Pandesal is often paired with a cup of coffee for breakfast or merienda. But over the years, we have seen how it has gotten smaller while its price continued to increase. This may happen again soon because of the rising cost of ingredients amid global issues.
Yan na po kasi ang isang naisip na paraan namin mga community bakery para kahit po paano makaahon po kami.
Yung nangyayari na yung pagtaas po ng dolyar sa piso po, di ba po? So, sobrang affected po yung OPEC namin, yung operation cost po namin.
The Philippine Association of Flour Millers says the price of flour, a key ingredient for pandesal, will rise again next month. That's because wheat is currently hard to import due to the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. Sugar prices are also up because of tight supply, caused by recent storms that ravaged local sugarcane plantations. The association says many community bakeries have closed down. Bakers also admit it's hard to keep the quality high at a low price. The group is asking for an increase from the current price range of 2 pesos to 2 pesos and 50 centavos for them to at least break even.
Ang presyo ho sana natin is kahit man lang ho yung mga 2 ito na mga 8 pesos hanggang 10 piso. Pero ho, sa ngayon ho, dahil ho, dahil ho pare-pareho tayo naaapektuhan itong mga nangyayaring pagtaas ho ng mga bilihin. 4 pesos lang ho ang hinihiling ho naming mga community bakery.
Consumers are divided on the proposal.
Nagtaasan lahat eh. So, I think kailangan din para makalaban naman yung mga bakers.
Para sa akin, hindi po. Kasi siya yung yung talagang pagkain ng mga Pilipino sa araw-araw.
Opo, kasi medyo lumiliit na rin po yung margin namin, yung kita namin.
One economist says community bakers could try asking for help or subsidies from local governments or dialogue with the Trade Department. The bakers appeal for a level playing field with big companies to keep their industry alive.
The real value of pandesal it is a part of Filipino culture, a part of our tradition. Nanganganib po ito na mawala. Handa kaming makipag-ugnayan sa anumang ahensya ng gobyerno na titingin para sa kapakanan ng industriya ng maliliit na magpapandesal.
Paige Javier, CNN Philippines.
A check on the weather now. Expect cloudy skies and rains in the Visayas brought by the southwest monsoon or habagat and a low pressure area. Scattered rain showers and thunderstorms will also occur in Caraga, Bicol, Mimaropa, and the provinces of Aurora and Quezon. Metro Manila not spared from the rainy weather. Pagasa forecasts isolated rain showers or thunderstorms in the capital region and the rest of the country. The LPA affecting a number of regions was last spotted east of Legazpi City in Albay. New COVID-19 cases in the country breaching the 10,000 mark as experts warn of an uptick in a few weeks. The health department logs 10,271 fresh cases from July 4 to 10. The figure translates to over 1,400 infections daily, 39% higher than the previous week. Severe and critical cases are now at 555. But independent researchers insist hospital use is still at low risk, except in areas with limited facilities. Octa research also sees a 10% rise in the positivity rate or the number of people infected in Metro Manila, Calabarzon, Central Luzon, and Western Visayas. The capital region could reach its peak by mid to late July and the other regions by late July or early August.
Hindi naman nagbago yung trajectory ng wave na ito. Hindi naman siya nag-accelerate. It's actually following our early projections na parang mini surge lang siya. Hindi gano'n kabilis yung pagtaas ng cases. So there's no alarm at this time. Of course, hindi natin masasabi yan sa ibang provinces kasi may mga ibang provinces na mababa yung vaccination coverage or mababa yung booster coverage. Pero right now, it looks like hindi pa naman tayo at a point na magiging overly concerned dito sa wave na ito.
Health officials remind the public not to let their guard down as they monitor the more transmissible Omicron subvariants. Dengue infections also on the rise. The nationwide tally climbed to over 64,700 from January to June 25th. This is 90% more than the cases reported during the same period last year. Most dengue infections came from Central Luzon, Central Visayas, and the Zamboanga Peninsula. Over 21,000 cases were recorded between May 29 and June 25 alone. Up next, more details about the suspected killer of former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Plus, Robin Padilla and Rafi Tulfo are among the centers pushing to legalize divorce. Is there a chance for a divorce law despite a tug-of-war with the Catholic Church? Keep it here on Newsnight.
Pandemic, serving others is the best. Sa pagtutulungan, patuloy ang ating laban sa buhay. Kaya dapat always healthy. With proper diet, exercise, and MX3 coffee mix to ignite my day. Hi guys! Lagi akong focus, active, at I'm extraordinary because the most important things in life deserve nothing less. MX3 Coffee Mix, my choice.
Totoo bang number 1 sa kids ang tender juicy? Patunayan po natin. Pinaka-tender ba talaga ang TJ?
Talaga?
Wow. Pinaka-juicy?
Truly!
Pinaka-masarap?
The best!
Wow! No more questions, Your Honor.
Sige nga.
Ubus na po eh.
Walang duda! Kids can tell. Pinaka-tender, pinaka-juicy, at pinaka-masarap. Number 1 na tender juicy. May cheese dog at chicken dog pa.
Walang duda, Kids Can Tell, number 1 ang Pure Foods Tender Juicy.
Unang tama, in love agad. Ang galing, ang sarap. Nagalagab lang. Sarap ulitin, susulitin ikaw. Ito ang tama.
Fried chicken? Timplang happy. With easy-to-cook Magnolia Chicken Timplados. Iba't ibang sarap ng chicken, kaya. Anong Magnolia Chicken Timplados mo? Iba't ibang easy chicken sarap.
We have the power to protect Mother Earth, keeping it cleaner and greener, to preserve our one and only home. Powering the good life. Meralco.
This is Newsnight on CNN Philippines. Making headlines globally, protesters in Sri Lanka have been camping in the official residence of the Prime Minister as the fate of the struggling South Asian economy remains in limbo. People were seen singing, playing and cooking, making themselves comfortable inside the temple trees in the capital of Colombo. The Sri Lankan President and Prime Minister have announced their resignations after thousands of protesters stormed their homes over the weekend. Now, over in Japan, a ruling coalition emerges victorious in an upper house election days after former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was gunned down in broad daylight near Osaka City. The Liberal Democratic Party won 63 out of 125 seats, with the public denouncing what they call an attack on democracy. Poll results come as more details unfold about the suspect. 41-year-old Tetsuya Yamagami says he initially planned to use explosives for the killing. Police said the suspect held a grudge against a certain group linked to Abe. CNN's Kyung La takes us to Tokyo for the latest.
We are getting a slightly better picture of the man who police say is their prime suspect in the murder of the former Prime Minister of Japan. Kyoto News Agency, who spoke to two people who know this man, say that there were no immediate signs that there was anything going to be happening with this man. They describe him as being quite mild-mannered, although quiet. He did work at a factory in the freight department where he held his job for a short period of time. He lost the job 7 months into it because he stopped showing up. As far as the police investigation, the suspect has been moved from police custody into prosecutor custody. He has yet to be officially charged. Law enforcement did take a look inside of his house, raiding that home, and found a number of homemade pistols made out of pipe and adhesive tape. The suspect did tell law enforcement, according to reports, that he had also considered using explosives to target the former prime minister. Japan, determined to continue and to move on in the business of its country, held its elections for the upper house of its parliament. Those elections went off without any significant problems, and this country will begin the process of saying farewell to Shinzo Abe over the next 2 days, holding a wake and a funeral at a local temple. In Tokyo, I'm Kyung La.
Here at home, the Japanese embassy has opened a condolence book to honor the former Japanese leader at its office in Pasay City that is open to the public until tomorrow, July 12th. A former chief of the Energy Department is set to lead the agency again under the Marcos administration. Malacanang says President Bongbong Marcos has appointed Rafael Lotilla as Energy Secretary. Lotilla was DOE chief from 2005 to 2007 under the term of former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Lotilla also served as president of the Power Sector Assets and Liabilities Management Corporation, or PSAM, and as Deputy Director General of the National Economic Development Authority. New challenges await Lotilla, including the raging fuel crisis. No word yet on who the new health secretary will be. Throughout his campaign, then presidential candidate Marcos vowed to push for renewable energy sources and harness nuclear power to lower electricity costs and promote sustainability. No specific details have been provided, but environmental groups say any policy shift should involve what is called a just transition. Tristan Odalo reports.
There is a parallel problem in our energy supply. We will find a way.
President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. doubling down on his promise to push for alternative sources of energy to lower electricity rates. During his campaign, Mr. Marcos proposed the need for more hydrothermal, wind, solar, and geothermal plants.
We have made commitments internationally to reduce our dependence on, first of all, coal and to replace it with renewables. We have to also determine the mix of renewables. The renewables to traditional. Diyan na pumapasok ang usapan ng nuclear.
Renewable energy currently comprises 21% of the country's energy mix, and the Energy Department eyes to increase it to 35% by 2030. European diplomats who have met the new president vowed their support for the Philippines' energy transition. But for the new president, the best way to move forward is by exploring the possibility of tapping nuclear energy.
Nuclear remains to be the cleanest and cheapest way to produce energy.
Environmental groups, however, say nuclear is a dirty and expensive energy source that will not solve the country's energy crisis. They add harnessing nuclear power is also a detour from the shift to cleaner energy sources. But while the fine print of Mr. Marcos's energy plans have yet to be revealed to the public, the challenge for the new administration is to make sure the shift in energy sources will be just.
It is the poor, it is the marginalized, it's the workers who are bearing the brunt, and the communities who are bearing the brunt ng impacts ng climate change.
From the Paris Convention in 2015 to the Glasgow Climate Impact in 2021, countries are urged to commit to a so-called just transition. Just transition happens when countries can create green jobs that are sustainable, decent, and at the same time fair and inclusive. The Philippines has Green Jobs Act of 2016 that could make this possible, but there are also hurdles. Last month, the Energy Department awarded 19 renewable energy contracts, which will add nearly 2,000 megawatts of power supply nationwide once constructed.
The concept of that kasi is to encourage renewable energy. We cannot just totally depend on renewable energy unless there is now a parallel technology that will support it, to make it 24/7.
As his first 100 days begins, the Marcos administration's energy agenda is still up in the air, and he has yet to name who will steer the country's energy transition. Tristan Odalo, CNN Philippines.
President Marcos is in stable condition after testing positive for COVID-19 on Friday. Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles says Mr. Marcos's fever has subsided and he has not shown signs of respiratory distress or pneumonia. The chief executive is working while in isolation. This is the second time since 2020 that he tested positive for COVID-19. Justice Secretary Boying Remulla, meantime, now negative for the virus after testing positive on Thursday. He says it's been 2 days since he tested negative through an antigen test, but he's still working from home because of the 7-day quarantine protocol. Some senators in the 19th Congress, including first-timers Robin Padilla and Raffy Tulfo, are pushing to finally legalize divorce in the country, but the matter remains contentious in this predominantly Catholic nation. Amor Santos has this story.
Hindi yan parang kanin na isusubo eh. Pag nainitan ka, yun, iluluha mo. Hindi yung ganun. Kaya mo pinakasalan yung tao dahil kasi mahal mo.
Josefino Casion and his wife started having problems in 2019. 3 years later, they no longer live together. Josefino is still trying to save their marriage, but
kung kalayaan nga naman ang hinihiling niya, ibibigay ko.
Kunyari sabihin niya na magpa-anal na tayo, okay sa ito.
Kung may 400,000 siya, di pa-anal niya.
Government data shows a dramatic increase in the number of broken marriages over the decades, but not everyone can afford the expensive annulment process. Legalizing divorce is now among the top priority measures of some lawmakers. Senator Risa Ontiveros' bill expands the grounds for dissolution of marriage to include 5 continuous years of separation even without a judicial decree. She adds physical violence or abuse need not be repeated to warrant absolute divorce. And homosexuality shall not be a ground unless infidelity is involved. For first-time Senator Robin Padilla, at least 2 consecutive years of separation should be among the grounds for divorce.
Baka daw itong panukala na ito ang sisira doon sa kasal. Eh hindi po. Minsan may mga bagay po talaga na hindi na maayos.
Senator Raffy Tulfo says he will push for enough safeguards against the abuse of divorce proceedings. He also seeks a dialogue with the Catholic Church and other critics of the divorce bill.
I will present them lahat ng mga reklamong natanggap ko ng mga mag-asawa na talagang hindi na pwedeng magsama pa dahil very abusive na itong si lalaki o talagang hindi nakatanggap-tanggap yung kanilang pagsasama pa dahil very rocky na.
The church is fully aware that there is no perfect marriage. They can have access to all the legal remedies already existing. They are saying that annulment is very expensive and make it cheaper. They are saying that it's taking long and then legislate a policy or a law that will make it shorter.
A marriage counselor fears divorce would be seen as an easy way out when what most couples need is better communication and professional help.
Of course, number 1 yan is infidelity. Mayroong problema yung ugali. Nagkasundo nga silang magpakasal. Bakit hindi nila pagkasunduan na maging maayos ang kanilang pagsasama para sa mga bata? Kapag kami na violence at home, kailangan na ng professional help from a psychiatrist para ma-address.
Other Filipinos are split on the issue.
Ayoko, kasi commitment yan. Once na you enter into a relationship, kailangan decided ka ba for better or for worse.
Hindi na kayo fit sa isa't isa, di ba? Hindi kayo nagkakasundo. Bakit pa kailangan ituloy yung relasyon nyo?
Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
Tomorrow marks the 6th year since the Philippines won its arbitral battle against China over a dispute in the West Philippine Sea. Various youth groups are calling on President Bongbong Marcos to uphold that historic victory and to stay true to his promise of not compromising sovereignty and territory. The West Philippine Sea Coalition recommends crafting a foreign policy based on the ruling, forging alliances with countries that side with Manila, and reviewing government projects that are funded by Beijing.
We call on President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. not to sail in the same direction as the previous administration. We challenge him to stand firm on our historic arbitral victory. President Marcos Jr. talks the big talk, calling our sovereignty sacred and saying that there will be no compromise. But when pressed for specifics, he offers nothing.
On July 12, 2016, the United Nations Permanent Court of Arbitration invalidated China's 9-9 claim and affirmed the Philippines' sovereign rights in its exclusive economic zone. Entertainment stories coming up for Pinoy Maroon 5 fans. Find out how much you need to set aside for the Grammy-winning band's much-awaited Philippine concert. And the Binibining Pilipinas pageant is set to feature some big names from veteran beauty queens to rising stars. More after the break.
It can be dangerous out there. Buti na lang, there's locally superfoods with 3 kinds of fruits that are super in many ways. First, there's our dragon fruit drink na mayaman sa prebiotics that aid digestion. Second, there's our passion fruit drink with no added sugar and high in vitamin C. Lastly, we have our mangosteen drink, good for your heart. All superfruits contain more antioxidants than your average fruit to help protect your immune system. Superfruit for super you.
Land Bank has always believed that in this country, we have to dream big. And so we learned to build something out of nothing. Improving the quality of life for our people so that we can keep in step with a brave new world and make our big dreams come true.
Tonight, we are celebrating all things gin. People are going back to bars after a long hiatus, are in for an exciting and unique experience with the Gin Bar Crawl Challenge. Gin lovers are invited to try specially concocted signature drinks made with Ginebra San Miguel gin products at any of the 30 partner establishments nationwide for the whole month of June, all happening around in key cities in the Philippines, Baguio, Naga, Davao, and here in Poblacion, Makati.
Actually, being a mixologist, we love playing around with different spirits. My favorite, personally, is gin because it's so versatile, it's cool, and it's also very clear.
GSM really got me. As in, solid lahat ng mixes nila.
Sobrang refreshing nito ngayon.
For a list of partner bars and restaurants for the Gin Crawl Challenge, just visit facebook.com/Barangay Ginebra.
Welcome back. Here's something to get you looking forward to the weekend. CNN Philippines is launching Silver Screen, which will let you enjoy foreign films right in the comfort of your own homes. In partnership with Reality MM Studios, great movies will debut on free TV every Sunday at 9 p.m. with replays on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Watch out for The Florida Project with Willem Dafoe showing on July 17th, On Your Wedding Day on the 24th, and Book Club on the 31st. Only on CNN Philippines. This year's Binibining Pilipinas coronation is set to be a star-studded one. The event will again feature the all-female hosting tandem of Miss Universe 2018 Catriona Gray and Miss Grand International 2016 first runner-up Nicole Cordoves. Miss Grand International 2020 first runner-up Samantha Bernardo and Filipino-British actor Edward Barber will also host. And Miss International 2005 Precious Lara Kigaman is among the judges this year. Out of 40 candidates, 4 new queens will be crowned on July 31st at the Araneta Coliseum in Quezon City. If Happy Ever After did exist for Maroon 5 fans, they would be getting tickets to the band's concert in the country in less than a month. The fan club pre-sale is set for August 4th with the Live Nation pre-sale on the next day. Public selling begins August 6th. Maroon 5 is performing at the Mall of Asia Arena in Pasay on December 8th. At 8 p.m. Ticket prices range from 2,500 pesos for general admission to 23,500 for floor standing. And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program is brought to you by
RPN Radio Philippines Network. DXKD Dipolo Radio Ronda.
Ever wonder why workouts always start with warm-ups like stretching? When your muscles are flexible, it helps your body function smoothly from mobility, stability, and even strength. In this episode, we'll learn about the benefits of flexibility and strength and why stretching exercises are equally as important. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez and welcome to MedTalk Health Talk, only here on CNN Philippines. Our guests are here today to give insights into the benefits of being flexible and being strong. With us is Dr. Michael Francis Obispo. He's a rehabilitation medicine specialist from the Asian Hospital and Medical Center. Also joining us is Ms. Gab Venturina. She's a fitness coach and an ISSA certified personal trainer. Now, stretching someone's body to become more supple and flexible offers many physical benefits. And such training allows for easier as well as deeper movements while building strength as well as stability. Stretching your muscles and joints leads to a greater range of motion, improved balance, as well as increased flexibility. Let's talk about flexibility. Why is this something that is important not just for some, but for pretty much everyone?
The importance of flexibility is being able to move in a particular range of motion that is actually easy and also pain-free. And if there is an ease in these movements, then it affects the coordination of a person's performance in doing different activities. Flexibility, it's actually affected by genetics and also by age. As we grow older, there will be a decrease in flexibility because your soft tissues and your joints are actually affected.
A lot of people, when they hear the word flexible, they think of, prima ballerinas or track and field runners, who can do all these activities with a good range of motion. Does it solely involve the muscles? Does it involve our joints or both?
It actually involves a combination of both. So it's not just one thing, but a combination of all three. So that includes your joints, your tissues, your tendons, as well as your ligaments. So if your muscles are a bit too tense, then that could lead to less flexibility. And if you have joints that aren't as mobile, then it'll make you less flexible as well.
Does this automatically equate to being fit? When I say fit, I'm talking about ideal body weight, because we do have a lot of individuals who have a high BMI, but they are extremely flexible.
Actually, given those are actually two different things. You can't necessarily say that a person who is flexible is a person with the best body composition, is a person who is really strong. Because you can actually have both, but you can also have just one or the other. So the perfect thing to do here is to try your best to achieve a certain balance. It's not necessarily make a flexible person a strong one or a strong person a flexible one. But with good strength and conditioning training, you can actually do both.
Now, Dr. Michael, let's talk about those who are quote-unquote double-jointed. Does this make a person more flexible?
If we have patients that are double-jointed, it might be a concern for us physicians because these people might have what you call a condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So it's a condition wherein there is a problem with the collagen structure of your soft tissues, making them hyper-elastic. Now, the danger of this particular condition is because you need to balance your stability and mobility. And if you have more of your mobility, then you're actually sacrificing your stability. In fact, for patients that might have a mild degree of Ehlers-Danlos, we do find them to have more instances of having body pains because their muscles are trying to work overtime to provide the stability to their body.
Now, increasing the flexibility of the muscle tendon unit promotes better performance. But how about reducing injuries? Dr. Michael, let's talk about some stretch receptors for a second here. What is the function why someone who tries to do, say, a leg split can only do it so much before they feel some pain, some tension in their muscles?
These are your Golgi tendon organs and your muscle spindle fibers. Now, these receptors are firing if you are stretching too much or stretching too fast. They have to fire to prevent injury to the body. If these receptors are affected, then the chance of injury is a little higher.
But first, I'd like to ask Gab, when it comes to people who want to be flexible right away, what is a good time frame for someone who is considered maybe not so flexible for them to improve? What kind of realistic time frame is good in order to improve one's flexibility?
You can actually start that on a day-to-day basis. So within a span of a week, you can already see an improvement to your flexibility. But of course, the degree on how flexible you are in that week span won't be as much. So if you actually want to see big changes, like really big changes, give yourself at least a month or up to 3 months, and you'll already see a much more significant difference in terms of your flexibility.
Now, Gab, let's talk about posture. Doing yoga, practicing yoga, a good all-around way for someone to achieve both flexibility, stability, and balance? Or is there much more, is there a wider selection of activities?
For yoga, I think it's actually an excellent way to be able to develop both your strength and your flexibility. But to address the other question, whether there is a bigger spectrum out there definitely is. Actually, there definitely is. And one thing I would say is a good workout they can do is calisthenics. Because in calisthenics, you can also work on both your flexibility, your mobility, and also your strength and endurance.
Coming up, we'll discuss more on the importance of strengthening your body as well as what you can do effectively. Only here on MedTalk Health Talk. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez and welcome back to MedTalk Health Talk, where caring is our calling. Now, we've discussed the importance of flexibility. Now let's discuss some of the importance of how to build that flexibility and some of the injuries that are common that may be helped if we were just a little bit more flexible. Let's talk about some of the common injuries na alam natin mga viewers. We have sprain injuries. What is a sprain? And would a sprain be avoided a little bit more if that person was just a little bit more flexible?
A sprain, or rather the more common type of sprain that we encounter is the ankle sprain. Now, a sprain is a ligamentous injury. It can be a stretched ligament or it can be a torn ligament. A strain is when the involved injury is with the muscle. You can have a pulled muscle or you can have a torn muscle, so that is a strain.
We know that whenever we try to build muscular strength, we need weight resistance in order to build muscular strength so people can lift objects. What type of strength are we talking about here when it comes to flexibility? Do we need to increase weight in order to be more flexible?
Not necessarily. It's quite different with regard to flexibility. And flexibility, you basically need to take a gradual approach. You can't rush it. You need to work on both your mobility along with it. So after you do your strength training, you have to do your stretches just to cool down the muscles and to aid recovery. Then prior, of course, you need to do a bit of your warm-ups. Then you'd notice just from there, your flexibility will actually start to improve little by little already.
How often should one focus on his or her flexibility in one's workout routine?
The average person should stretch at around 3 times a week. And the duration of this could be just within 5 to 10 minutes or a little longer if they'd like. And ideally, you could do this before and after your workout. Before the workout, you do your dynamic stretches or the moving stretches. Then afterwards, you do the static stretches. It is, in fact, a warm-up as well. But in other instances, it's actually a cool down if you're doing the static stretching.
Now, Dr. Michael, we were discussing with Gab about the benefits of flexibility and strength training as well. Let's talk about the strength involved in trying to achieve greater flexibility. Is the strength that we're talking about here more of coordination and stability?
You mix the flexibility and the stability together through coordination. So, for example, if your patient is doing a lunge, so of course, if someone is doing a lunge, you're doing flexibility of the lower extremities while you're trying to achieve stability of your core muscles. The training allows the proper coordination of these muscle units in order to provide the movement that's safe for your patient.
Will being more flexible offer some solution to those who experience low back pain? Will being more flexible be able to help in this situation?
If there's a back pain, we always try to strengthen the core, but that's not entirely true. We have to strengthen the core and at the same time try to improve the flexibility of the spine. That's why we do a lot of exercises for these patients, some mobility exercises. And we also add flexibility exercises, especially of the pelvis and of the lower extremities, because most of these patients, they develop a back pain because there's a problem with the chain, hip, knees, ankles, and the lower back. So we need to treat the patient, as I mentioned a while ago, holistically.
Now, Gab, when it comes to trying to achieve greater flexibility, will someone's metabolism be tapped into this as well? Will someone be able to have increased metabolism while they're trying to achieve increased flexibility?
They're not exactly as connected as one may think. However, when it comes to building strength, that more actually improves your metabolism. So it's not really more on the flexibility, but more on strength and conditioning training.
What would you advise those who would like to gain more flexibility but are not really looking for athletic performance for that matter? They're at their older ages, senior ages, they just want to feel a little bit better.
For simple things that they can do, I would advise them that it would be helpful to practice stretches, even just the simple ones when they wake up or when they're trying to relax after a long day sitting from work. They can do their stretches, their static stretches or their dynamic stretches. And they should keep in mind that in a way it does help you with your daily life. Like for example, if you're trying to clean in the house and you want to lift some furniture, or if you're going to get your groceries out of the car and you're going to bring it home, so they won't have as much pain as an ordinary person would if they improve their flexibility.
When we return, we'll give you tips on how to improve your flexibility and strength for your overall health. Only here on Med Talk Health Talk. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is Med Talk Health Talk, your partner in healthcare. Now we're talking about stretching. Now let's talk about what type of stretches can we do. Now, Gab, can you please share with us some basic stretching exercises that people can do at their own home?
We have the dynamic stretching, and we also have the static stretches. So before you do your workouts, that's when you do your dynamic stretching. In a way, it's like a warm-up for the muscles before your lifts or your other workouts. So a good example, if we're going to go from head to toe, we can do head circles. So that's just basically moving your head in a circular motion or moving it up and down and side to side. Then we can also do some shoulder shrugs. So we move our shoulders forward and backward. And if you want to work on your elbow mobility, you can also do some elbow circles. As for the wrists, some wrist circles. Then if you want to improve your hip mobility, we also have the 90-90 stretch. So that's when you position your legs in a 90-degree angle, both facing one side, and then you flip it on the other side as well. We also have hip circles, leg swings, knee circles, ankle circles, and leg swings. Then for static stretches, we can also do some holds, like the chin to the chest, which is when you tuck your head like that, and you just hold it for a while, and then you do the other side and on the sides as well. We also have the wrist stretches, which would be really handy if you're working and you're on the computer the whole day. We can also do the tricep stretch or the shoulder stretches. Then for the lower extremities, we also have the hamstring stretch. We can also do a forward lunge hold, and we can also do basic squat hold as well.
When it comes to stretching, is there a certain feeling that our viewers should feel in order for them to think that they have achieved a proper stretch?
So similar to how our lifts go, you'll also feel when you're already reaching your limit. So for example, you're trying to do pigeon pose, for example. You already feel the muscles being stretched, like the target muscles in that area. So in that case, that would be a bit of the quads and the glutes. So the moment you feel that sensation and the moment that you feel just a little bit tinge of pain that is not too painful yet, but actually still feels good, then that's when you already need to relax it and to stop. So you don't need to push it to the point where you're already feeling sharp pain, because that could potentially lead you to injury. So you have to be mindful about that.
There's a common saying that no pain, no gain. Does this follow the same when it comes to trying to improve your flexibility? Kailangan bang yung kumbaga sa puntong masakit na para alam mong effective itong flexibility exercise na ginawa ko?
If there are contractures, for example, or very obvious tightness, then if you stretch it, that's okay, because you more or less, you can actually see the limits of the joint. But if they already have the normal range of motion, and if the patient has these pains, then it has to be observed. Some of your receptors are firing, especially because there's some injury already occurring.
Now, Gab, before we go, do you have any tips for our viewers, especially for those who are trying to be more flexible?
Do your dynamic and static stretches. Before you work out, spare yourself a couple of minutes, 5 to 10 minutes to do your dynamic stretching. Then after your workout, especially when you do some heavy lifting, make sure to do your static stretches to relax the muscles and to aid in your recovery time.
And Dr. Michael, any words of advice for our viewers before we go?
Exercises are actually good for the body. And we always recommend that to our patients. Especially, we have a saying that exercise is medicine. Doing simple flexibility exercises like calisthenics is very much safe and okay to do for many individuals. But if you're going to be doing more aggressive stretches, abnormal position stretches, then it's best to consult your sports specialist or even your physician before engaging in these activities.
Thank you very much, Dr. Michael Francis Obispo, rehabilitation medicine specialist, and of course, Ms. Gab Venturina, our fitness expert, for being with us today, sharing your tips and expertise, especially when it comes to flexibility and strength. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and thank you for watching Med Talk Health Talk. We'll see you again next time.